Hi, my name is Anita Squire, and this is my interpersonal communication project. I'm a student at Liberty University, and my course is HSCO508. Next slide. Interpersonal communication is the type or kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Communication can happen in more than one way. It can be one-on-one, face-to-face, over the phone, by texting, emails, a group of people communicating, and social media are a few different forms of communication. People connect in relationships based on their communication. In this presentation, I will create an overarching goal. I will look at my background and my behavioral blend. I will define potential barriers and how to overcome them. Create an action plan for improving my interpersonal communication skills. Next slide. My overarching goal is to become an influential and effective communicator by becoming an effective listener. This will allow me to understand the person I am communicating with in a meaningful way and allow me to offer engaged feedback. I will do this through having empathy, genuineness, and warmth. Next slide. Effective listeners, they do not execute any strategy or map or have a specific outcome planned before the conversation. They're not distracted by other thoughts or memories triggered by the conversation. There is no agenda, expectations, or preconceived outcome. They suspend the self and listen from the heart, and they accept the person speaking as a person of worth because they are a human being. Next slide. The conversation gets enlarged when the lines of communication are open and honest between both paths and both participants can be heard. There is a more effective line of communication using methods and techniques that maximize the benefits of both talking and listening. This allows the conversation to flow back and forth normally. Next slide. My background is that I am a 49-year-old female. I am from upstate New York. I have lived here in Florida since 1992. I have been divorced for 6 years. I'm currently working in corporate America, and I have a bachelor degree in psychology with a minor in business, and I'm currently working towards my master in human services counseling. All of this leads to my abilities to listen and my need to improve my listening skills. Working in corporate America, of course, I have to learn and I have to know details and I have to remember those details. Being divorced and with my age, this gives me some wisdom and experience to add to my effective feedback. Next slide. My behavioral blend is a little bit multiple. What is expected of me is an S and an I. And looking on the chart here, an S stands for steadiness, sincerity, patience, and modest. The I stands for influence, enthusiasm, friendly, and optimistic. These are both people-oriented blends. What I is actually me is a CIS combination. So when we add the C in there, this gives compliance, being accurate, cautious, and contemplative. Next slide. Describing how these behavioral blends affect me is, first of all, I am contemplative and task-oriented. I spend a lot of time thinking and observing. I'm spiritual and I like to study people. I am outgoing and do well in large groups or with individuals, and I'm patient with them. I'm a problem solver and an advice giver. I just have to be careful not to give advice when it's not solicited. I am optimistic. I have to guard against not being able to make a decision and being taken advantage of. I also can be stretched a bit thin and sidetracked when others are talking. Next slide. Some of the barriers that happen that keep a person from being able to listen or participate fully in a conversation, the first one can be perception reception, or attention. This is when our perception about a person, a situation, or a subject can influence our reception and how much we pay attention. The solution to this would be to use the optimistic part of my personality blend and be an optimistic and non-judgmental listener. Stay open-minded to what is being said and the entire message. Next slide. The second barrier is being the intellectual or logical listener. Listening with my head and hearing only what I want to hear, neglecting the emotional and nonverbal behavior of the talker. This would mean that I'm not really understanding where they're coming from. My solution would be to not try to jump ahead of the talker, to share the experience they are telling me. Let myself understand what the talker's feeling when they're telling their story or making their point. Pay better attention to nonverbal cues that are coming from the talker. Next slide. The third barrier can be physical barriers. For me, it would be fatigue barrier, which influences my ability to pay full attention when I'm having a conversation. My mind can wander or just go blank and miss what the talker's saying. The solution to this would be to listen at a level 2, to not miss important information, and by taking notes. This will help so that I can later recall the conversation. Next slide. Along with trying to get through your day and working and communicating with others, there is external noise and there is internal noise. External noise can be things like people around you talking loud, bright lights, the layout of the area, the movement of others in the room, the vehicles, dogs barking, loud music, movement, and the clock. Internal noise can be fear of being judged, self-doubt, excessive self-consciousness, anxiety, a to-do list that's in your head, or any other running thoughts. Next slide. Overcoming internal noise can be done through having mental practice. This can be applied to control mental focus, control distractors, and improve performance or communication abilities. Learning relaxation techniques, breathing, writing down the to-do list instead of trying to keep them in my head. Set mental noise aside and focus on that conversation I'm in the task at hand. Practice patience. Be positive. Not let past experiences influence current conversations. Overcoming external noise can happen by changing the physical location. Find a more quiet place to talk. Pay attention to nonverbal behavior. Pause if the listener is the one being distracted. Direct attention on the talker only, and ask clarifying questions. Next slide. My action plan to become a better listener and communicator and to enlarge my conversation is to stop and breathe when I'm in thought and it's interrupted by someone who needs to talk. Face the talker when I'm listening. Do not jump ahead of the talker. Let them finish their thought. Be patient and help the other person feel important. Offer thoughtful feedback. Focus on being empathetic, warm, and genuine. And do not judge. And lastly, be consciously aware of my part of the conversation. This concludes my presentation. I thank you for listening, and I hope you found it helpful and you enjoyed it. I have attached a bibliography that shows the sources that I have used to help me gather my information on interpersonal communication. Thank you.